Ford's 2.5 liters Duratec engine, also known as the Duratec 25, is an inline four-cylinder engine with naturally aspirated combustion that was used from 2009 to 2019. The Mazda L5 engine served as the foundation for the i4 Duratec, which was developed in collaboration with Mazda. The 2.5 Duratec produced 136 to 172 pounds-ft of torque and 156 to 175 horsepower. Ultimately, Ford's new EcoBoost engine family replaced the 2.5 Duratec in 2019. This engine was basic for the Fusion and Escape. The 2.5 Duratec, with a maximum output of 175 horsepower, is frequently disregarded because of its low power. It might not be the engine for a true auto enthusiast, but it's a great option for anyone looking for a dependable and fuel-efficient engine. We go over the reliability and issues with the Ford 2.5 Duratec in this video. It's the Car Problems YouTube channel. Subscribe and let's get started. In general, this engine is incredibly dependable. You could say it was over-engineered. When you have a 2.5 liters engine producing only 175 horsepower, it is very difficult to break a piston or experience problems with the engine's internals. This is fantastic news for dependability. However, there are a few weaknesses. Coolant consumption problems. The Duratec i4's propensity to guzzle engine coolant is its most prevalent problem. However, most cars only require a coolant top-off every few years, if at all, according to most owners, who claim to have to refill it once to twice per year. The reason why the Fusion and Escape consume so much coolant hasn't really been proven. But there usually isn't any kind of obvious coolant leak, which has led some to speculate that engine block porosity is to blame. Although we are unaware of a solution to this issue, it is critical to be aware of it. The engine may overheat if your coolant level is too low. An engine can suffer catastrophic damage from overheating by having the block, heads, and internals warped. In case you encounter the low coolant warning light in the middle of a journey, we advise keeping an extra bottle of coolant in your trunk. There are numerous other possible causes of coolant loss besides the mysterious coolant loss. Significant coolant loss can be caused by a cracked radiator, leaking water pumps or hoses, blown head gaskets, cracked heads, or cracked radiators. The signs of coolant loss are typically obvious. A low coolant warning light and potential overheating are symptoms. Transmission shifting problems. The Fusion, Escape, and Milan all have conventional 6-speed automatic transmissions. Unfortunately, the transmissions have leaky problems that result in low levels of trans fluid and a variety of problems like hard shifting, erratic shifting, and slippage. The problems are most likely to appear on the Fusion and Escape models from 2012 to 2014 around the 70,000-mile mark. Although 2012 to 2014 vehicles are the ones most likely to experience these issues, all years have also had problems reported. The issue is frequently caused by a leaking shaft seal, which is found on the transmission's left side. The output shaft seal is in charge of sealing the output shaft to the transfer case and is found on the front of the transfer case. Transmission fluid leaks out at the output shaft as a result of seals degrading and wearing out over time, as is typical. The powertrain and transmission control modules in these vehicles are a second frequent source of transmission issues. The software calibration may need to be updated if it becomes out of sync. You will typically notice jerky or delayed shifting between gears 1 and 2, as well as between 4 and 5, when the TCM and PCM is the problem. Transmission fluid leaking from the transfer case is the most obvious symptom. Many 2.5 Duratec owners, however, don't become aware of the leaks until it is too late. Once enough fluid has leaked out, the transmission can experience problems like gear slippage and jerky shifting. Check for leaks in your transfer case and transmission fluid first. If there are no leaks and the fluid appears to be in good condition, the PCM or TCM is probably the problem. Some signs of transmission fluid leakage include gear slippage, hard shifting, fluid leaking from transfer case, delayed shifts, reprogramming or updating the software on the powertrain control module, and transmission control module is Ford's fix for these problems. Some mechanics, however, contend that the software update is only a temporary fix that results in bigger fluid leaks, which can eventually cause clutch and transmission failure. In order to stop leaks, the transmission software update raises internal pressure. However, the increased pressure causes the output shaft seal to experience more wear and tear, which eventually results in bigger fluid leaks. Although it works in a few vehicles, make sure you don't already have fluid leaks. Instead of just reprogramming the control modules, you should replace the output shaft seal if you are leaking fluid. Maintaining proper trans fluid levels in the transmission is the simplest way to avoid problems and guarantee transmission longevity. Power steering failure. Even though this issue isn't necessarily engine-related, could be dangerous for Ford Fusion and Escape drivers. Ford installed new electronic power assister steering (EPAS) units to replace the hydraulic power steering units. With regard to power steering, the new system was more straightforward because it did away with every pump, pulley, and fluid required for hydraulic systems. However, the fact that computers now run the entire system complicated matters. The new EPAS system is controlled by a motor, ECU, torque sensor, and steering wheel position sensor. The torque sensor in the 2.5 Duratec EPAS system is problematic because it can fail suddenly. The torque sensor keeps track of how far and how quickly you've turned. When a sensor malfunctions, the ECU no longer receives a signal from it and turns off the power steering system. Eventually, you will lose power steering and find it extremely challenging to turn the wheel, particularly at low speeds. Unfortunately, the fix requires more than just swapping out the torque sensor. Since the torque sensor is integrated into the steering column must be removed in order to replace it. For most models with the 2.5 Duratec, this problem fortunately became a recall item. Conclusion: it was challenging to locate typical Duratec 25 issues. These engines don't have much power, but they are incredibly reliable. When you are pushing 175 horsepower in a 2.5 liters engine, it is difficult to bust many systems, making this engine very dependable. Almost no typical issues are connected to this engine by itself. It has been used in the Fusion and Escape, which have experienced some transmission and power steering issues, but overall the engine has not been particularly troubled. They have a reputation for guzzling coolant, so make sure you top them off as often as necessary. For the Ford 2.5, there aren't many performance upgrades available, so it's difficult to say how dependable these are with more power. You can anticipate that some basic repairs will eventually need to be made once you pass the 100,000-mile mark and head towards the 150,000-mile mark. A 2.5 Duratec with proper care can travel more than 250,000 miles. Hope the information was useful for you. If so, please press the like button and subscribe to the channel.